All the things they're all about. Write it on a piece of paper. Got a feeling I'll see you later. There's something about this. Let's keep it moving. And if it's good, let's just get something cooking. 'Cause I really wanna rock with you. I'm feeling some connection to the things you do. I don't know what it is.
Welcome to Reflections of a Diva. Today, the Divas are discussing the Obama phenomenon. Who is he and where does he stand on the issues? If you're like me, you've been bombarded by media highlights of what's going on in the campaign, where does Barack Obama stand versus where does Hillary Clinton stand. So today we're going to take a deeper dive into those issues on health care and the economy and the war on Iraq. But first, before we begin, let's go into his background and his history. Barack Obama was born to a Kenyan-born goat herder, a black man named Barack Obama Sr., and Ann Dunham from Kansas. The two of them met in college at Hawaiian University. Barack Obama later moved to New York. He also lived in Indonesia for a while. He graduated from Columbia University in 1983 and later earned a Harvard Law degree in 1991. He served as an Illinois state senator for 8 years, where he helped to introduce the state-earned income tax credit, which saved over $100 million for the taxpayers in Illinois. He also pushed through the expansion of early childhood education, and he helped law enforcement to pass a law that would require cameras in the room during interrogations. And that was because many of the death row inmates were later found innocent of crimes that were committed. After becoming an Illinois state senator, he became the third African American since Reconstruction to be elected in the U.S. Federal Senate. I'm sorry. His first law was passed with Republican Tom Coburn, in a measure to allow every American to go online and see where their tax dollars are spent. And he is a leader in ethics reform. Hey ladies. Hi. Bring you guys into the conversation. DeVry, did you know Barack was a fellow Chicago resident?
Yes, having been from Chicago, born and raised actually. I have heard great things. I haven't lived in Chicago it's been about 10 years, but I've heard great things that he's been doing in Illinois with the Senate. I have several friends and family members who are all singing his rights, and they're saying he's been in the trenches. He's been doing quite a bit to help not only those in Illinois, but all over being in the Senate.
Well, not only is Barack from Illinois, so is his wife, Michelle. Anybody know anything about Michelle? She's a phenomenal black woman.
She is phenomenal. She's remarkable, as is Barack, I would say, you know, having graduated from prestigious universities herself and also having a law degree from Harvard. I believe that's where they met. So she is...
Well, actually, they met at a law firm.
At a law firm, that's right.
In Chicago. She attended Princeton and Harvard herself.
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby. And she became the Dean of College Affairs, Student Affairs at the University of Chicago. She's done a lot of community affairs and was later promoted to the VP of Community Affairs in Chicago for the University of Chicago. So she's a phenomenal woman.
Absolutely.
Nice power couple. I heard an interesting statement by one of the children, one of the kids, asked him something about becoming president, and actually he asked his daughter, would you ever run? So I thought that was very, very interesting, especially in light with Hillary running now, and you know, it's possible for a woman to run.
Right.
He asked his daughter, and she said her reply was no, because everything you say is scrutinized. And she said, you know, I don't be under that type of scrutiny where everything I say has a lasting record and will just live forever. Wow. That was powerful.
Wow. Does anyone know where he stands on the issues?
Which issues?
Any particular issue? How about civil rights? You want?
One of the things that I found out about him was the Confederate flag. I believe there was a statement made that he felt the Confederate flag was more appropriate in a museum versus being in the State House. And I commend that. I think he's absolutely right. We don't necessarily want to lose that because it's part of the history, but it will be more appropriate in a museum, and I agree.
Well, you know, it's funny. I thought Tahira was going to be the first one to speak up. Because Barack has done a lot as far as he stands for against mandatory sentencing.
Yes.
You're aware of that?
Yes. It sometimes can be a little difficult to get a clear-cut view where all the politicians stand. But he's definitely a remarkable candidate, and the way he's bringing everyone from different races and genders and age groups together to become more interested in politics. I think it's a wonderful thing that gives him advantage over the other candidates, because the other candidates don't really have that type of inspiration on people to bring them all together. But
where does that come from? Is it from his background, being a black man?
I think it's also just being a younger man. Perhaps he's more connected with the general population as compared to the older candidates who haven't really, they weren't raised in the same type of environment with technology and just, I guess, not as connected to all the atrocities of the past, where the other candidates were like probably adults during that time. So it's almost like a generation, I think, difference between him and the other candidates. But it's hard for me to really nail down where any of the candidates stand for real. Even when I deliberately went online to look for myself, and it was kind of like, I understand they said certain quotes, but as far as like what policies they voted on during their Senate or what have you, it's still kind of confusing to me. But I think it's just more to be known. I guess it's still early, so I think all of the most important issues are going to, eventually come out closer to the election.
Denise, you have a comment?
Well, I was just going to say you make a very good point, because in campaigning or in the campaigning world, anybody can say anything. But what I like about Barack Obama specifically is that he has laid out a plan, which his words have been already detailed and captured in book form. So people have more of an opportunity to hold him to that. Additionally, we were talking about civil rights. He also is a great advocate for women's rights. The Fair Pay Act is something that he is pushing hard for with his presidential nomination, which allows for women to be equally paid for their work. I think that's huge. I have not heard a candidate make that type of statement. And in fact, I don't know if anyone knows recently, but there was the U.S. Supreme Court had actually ruled against a woman who had put in just as much time, just as much effort. She was on the same level, and she makes, I think, 60% less than as far as her retirement fund is concerned. So this woman has retired, and she's still getting, less money. So the fact that he's putting this out here and putting himself out on the line shows a lot.
I think he even went a step further to say not only do women make this much less compared to men, but he specifically talked about ethnic minorities and how women of ethnic minority groups make even less. So he's definitely putting himself out there on the line. And I think, just to go back to the question you posed about how it is that he's able to bring everybody together, I think it's, he is youthful, but I also think that the country itself is at a better place right now, more ready to accept him. And the fact that he has written a couple books and talked in detail about some of the trials and tribulations that he encountered as a young child, even some of the substances that he may have tried, exactly. Whereas some other presidents who were really well liked never admitted to having experimented with other substances. So I think he's just a very charismatic man. He's young, but I also think the country is in a different place right now where they're willing to accept him and his viewpoints.
Not only has he had the experience of being a black man, but he was a civil rights attorney.
Absolutely.
So he's been exposed to racial profiling and discrimination, and He is actually, as far as civil rights, he's standing for strengthening civil rights enforcement, combating employment discrimination, which we talked about for women, expanding the hate crime statutes, which is necessary, ending deceptive voting practices, ending racial profiling in the states. So he wants to mandate that from a federal law, and eliminating sentencing disparities.